What's up, everyone? How you guys doing? And in today's video, we're talking about Nahida. So as we all know, she's rerunning alongside Hu Tao, second half of 5.1. And the reason why this video is coming out is because when we look at like Genshin characters and who has the highest values to pull for a rerun, Nahida tends to be on top of that list quite often. And you know, and people say, oh, she's strong. And yes, she is strong. But the thing is, a lot of people in the community tend to mark her as this omnipotent figure, like, oh, she's broken, yeah, pull for her, must pull, you don't pull for her, your account's bricked, you know, like delete your, not, okay, maybe not that bad, but you know, people tend to make those remarks when it comes to Nahida. And in today's video, it's more about clarifying those claims, to talk about her strengths, but also her weaknesses, and to really put the Dendro reaction into perspective as well. So yeah, less yapping, let's just start this video, let's begin. Alright, so when we talk about Nahida, right, we need to talk about Dendro first, right? Recently I made a video ranking all the 7 elements in Genshin Impact, and Dendro reached the top of the list, or in the case, the second highest, right? The rank second just behind Hydro. And I think one of the comments that people are making is like, oh, why are you ranking Electro so high, right? Electro is so reliant on Dendro. But you think about it, right? Is it a reverse true for Dendro as well? Would you run a mono Dendro team? No, right? So Dendro is also an element that is very reliant on reactions, right? Very reliant on Electro, very reliant on Hydro, and to a certain case, Pyro as well. So they're very, very reliant on elements reactions. And for the reactions to be successful, you generally want a good Dendro applicator, right? Good Dendro application. And the thing is that Nahida is very, very good at it. Remember, Nahida is a catalyst, so her basic attacks apply Dendro on every hit. Very, very nice, right? No infusion needed. The main part of Nahida's kit, in my opinion, is the skill, all schemes to know, right? So there is a whole version or a press version, right? Well, basically what happens is that when you hit or when you mark the enemies, the whole is the camera, right? So if you're going around and mark everybody, they'll be inflicted with this debuff called the Seed of Skanda, right? They have a mark and they'll all be chained together. Now, so what is Seed of Skanda? So basically what happens is that whenever you apply an elemental reaction on these characters with the seed, or if you take damage from Dendro Core, so Bloom, Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, Nahida will unleash Tri-Karma Purification, right? And you'll do Dendro damage as well, but also reapply Dendro. And I think that you can see, oh, these are very nice ways of reapplying Dendro on the team, right? And if you have her on field, right, she's basicing, right? She's going to apply a lot of Dendro. Personally, I don't like to play her on field, but I know it's a thing that a lot of people like to do, right? Because first and foremost, Nahida has one of the lowest health pools for 5-star. So if you're not careful, she might die. So anyways, well, I'm not going to talk about the on-field, off-field playstyle. I think people have made videos about it. I'm not going to it. Personally, I don't like the on-field style, but that's just me because I play out Hytham, right? He's the kids to chat. Okay, so basically, this Seed of Skanda lasts for 25 seconds, which is very, very long. And the Tri-Karma Purification, it triggers every 2.5 seconds, right? Now, these things can change, right? So, okay, and it does a good scaling. I said attack and EM. Generally, EM is the way to go, right? Because the highest scaling. The ult does change a lot of her kit, all right? First and foremost, if you have Pyro, Electro, or Hydro characters, they have 3 different effects depending on the elements. And of course, if you have more than one character, you will stack on the they will stack on the effect. So for Pyro, basically, you increase the damage of the Tri-Karma Purification. The Electro decreases the cooldown, so instead of 2.5, it'll be 2, right? It'll be 2 or 1.8. And then for the for Hydro, you basically extend the Illusionary Heart, which means that these effects last a longer. And I think, and generally, right, you would really want to build a lot of EM for the team, right? And linking from the ultimate to a A1 passive, basically whenever you use the ult, you will share 25% of the EM from the highest EM character. In this case, most of the time will be Nahida, right? And so when Nahida shares the EM with the party members, It's a max of 250. So that's where the 1000 comes about. But generally, 1000 is, as a rule of thumb, on field, right? So the reason why I say this is because if Nahida is the on-field character, she also gets the bonus, right? So generally, because you get diminishing returns after 1000, if you play Nahida as an on-field character, you generally want to have an 800, because 25% of 800 is 200, so you get a 1000. And why you will want 1000 again is because of the A4 passive. Basically, at 1000, you get a maximum of 24% crit rate and 80% damage bonus from the Seed of Skandha. Not Seed of Skandha, sorry, the Tri-Karma Purification, right, which is the attack that happens at intervals. All right. So when you look at Nahida in general, we can see that first and foremost, she has good application, right? She has good personal damage, and she also has very good support for the rest of the team. Because if let's say Nahida is the off-field character, and let's say our hater is the on-field character, he gets crazy amount of buffs. He gets extra EM, right? He gets extra damage, all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, the team benefits a lot just from Nahida's kit, right? And so, if you're looking at Dendro, right, in particular, is Nahida one of the best, if not the best character? In my opinion, yes, right? Nahida up to this day, ever since 3.2 when she was released, she is still the best character in the game. Best Dendro character, let me just clarify that, right? For most, if not all Dendro, for most Dendro reactions, she is going to be the best Dendro support, or best Dendro sub DPS. I would say most because generally, I think the only team which is not the best in is with Kinish, right? Kinish will rather have Emily, and even so, even if she's the second best option, right? Like, she's still gonna be broke, she's still gonna be crazy as good, right? If you are the second best option for 10% of like Dendro team comms, and the other 90% she's the best option by far, then you would definitely see a lot of value, right? Whether you're playing Nilo Bloom, whether you're playing Super Bloom, Hyper Bloom, if you're playing Quick Bloom, Burgeon, right? Aggravate, Spread, all these teams, Nahida is the best character for the team. And I think everyone should be familiar with this phrase, right? DPS are temporary, and the and supports are forever, right? And I think it's very important to really remember that, because eventually there'll be new DPSs, right? Eventually our hater will get replaced, a new Dendro DPS comes along, Nahida will be there. Chlorine, is super good, but one day she'll be replaced with a stronger electro character. Nahida's still gonna be pairing up well, right? Imagine this is a Nivelette, right? Imagine Nivelettes will get replaced, right, with a stronger Hydro DPS. You know who's still gonna be there? Nahida, right? And I think that's really something to really put into perspective, right? Because if you look at, like I mentioned, you look at Dendro in a vacuum, then yes, Nahida is generally the best character for most, if not any team comps, and even though she's probably second best. But here's the thing, right? That is by looking at Dendro individually. And Dendro based team calls are still strong, they're still pretty fine. I use them in Area Abyss. But here's the thing. Now let's broaden our horizons, broaden our scope, and look at the entire game. Is Nahida still as omnipotent as she was when she was released in 3.2? And in my opinion, the answer is no, right? I think we have seen since Fontaine got released that Hoyo has been trying to focus they've been focusing on other teams, right? We had Pyro with Lini and Alekino, two comms that do not require Nahida. We have Navia, obviously, Geo character, doesn't interact with Dendro. We have Risley, who's still dead a dish. I'm so sorry. Burn Melt is the thing, but it's harder to. It's not really something that most people gravitate to. The only two characters that I would say really really wanted that, or had Nahida in the team comps, was pretend this is Neuvillette and Cloren. And even so, like I would say that like Neuvillette definitely doesn't need Nahida at all. Neuvillette is plenty strong by himself. The only character that I would say like best in slot is probably Cloren, right? Of everything that's come by, right? And I think this is really what Hoyo is trying to do, in trying to beef up the other elements to be on the same level as Dendro. Because if you guys were here during the Sumeru era, right, the 3.x era, you would know that like Dendro based teams like Hyperbloom, for example, were far and away the best team comps in the game, right? Or even like Aggravate or Spread teams, right? Kaching was meta for some reason, right? Tinari was plenty strong. And the only team outside of that could relatively compare close, in my opinion, is actually the character that's being rerun alongside Nahida right now, which is Hu Tao Double Hydro, right? I think that's the only team that probably was as close to Nahida and Dendro in the heyday, right? The gap was so far apart. And I think that recently, ever since Fontaine, they're trying to close the gap. And I think that's where like our perspective as players had to come in, right? Because I think that other elements are catching up. Obviously, Neuvillette is just broken as hell, but we see Arlecchino coming in, right? Raising the bar of DPSs. We see Shailonen come in, right? Raising the DPS of Neuvillette and even Navia or even Ito, right? We have seen Shen Yun bringing Shao to the next level. And I think that's really where we have put those things into perspective, because I think Dendro, at least Nahida in particular, has not gotten a lot of changes ever since then. Yes, I know, like as I mentioned, right, we got Cloren, you could technically run Neuvillette, but you don't need to run Neuvillette, right? Mualani, and I know people are going to say this, what about Mualani? Isn't like Nahida like part of a best team as of now? But in my opinion, it's more of like a lack of options than anything else, right? Remember that her reaction is Vaporized, which is Hydro with Pyro, and coincidentally, we're going to have Malvika, the Pyro Archon, being released in this patch as well. So, you know, no guesses what's going to happen next, right? I don't see leaks. I don't think there are even leaks for the Malvika, but anyways. So yeah, I think it's really important for us to put into perspective what's happening. Is that Hoyover is trying to push the other team comps up, right? Try to really equalize the power of the other elements that's not called cryo and physical, because Eula, Risley, Ayaka did. But anyways, you know, trying to really push them up and make the gaps a lot smaller. And maybe Nahida, maybe Dendro is still the best. Maybe. But if you think about it, right, they're no longer as runaway, right? They're no longer the runaway leaders as they were in Sumeru. I think really puts into like really that's what it's really about, right? Like she's great, right? Especially if you run Dendro teams, she is a fine addition to your team comps, right? Especially if the skill of elemental mastery, so like your transformative reactions and even like your additive reactions like Quicken. But I think the perspective that we have to see right now, right, is that the other elements are catching up, where even Nahida's at the top, she's no longer alone, right? I think that's really what we have to really think when we actually view characters nowadays, because you know there's a lot of power creep, right? There's like we all can see that, right? There's power creep in at least in Fontaine, and there's power creep always, right? But in this case, the power creep is not creating a runaway leader. Like Neuvillette is strong, but Neuvillette is not like Neuvillette doesn't like beat out the competition, right? But it's more of Neuvillette being on the same level, and even a little bit higher, it is not as big as a gap. And I think that's the situation Nahida is right now. I think it's no coincidence that ever since Baizhu released in 3.6, there has not been a 5-star Dendro character ever since up to Emily in 4.8 and Kinish in 5.0, and both of them were basically created for each other. And so I think it's really important for us to really see what Hoyoverse have been doing in recent times, right? That we're really trying to make the other elements great again, right? Because eventually you need to sell the other characters, right? You can't just sell Nahida. You can't just sell Alhaitham. You can't just sell Chlorend. You have to sell the Arlekinos. You have to sell the Navias. And I think that's what they're trying to do right now. Is this all business? I mean, it's a gacha game. What do you expect, right? That being said, right, Nahida still has good room for vertical investment. Her signature weapon is not really needed. You run stack frags is more than enough. If you have the Wandering Everstar, do I have the Wandering Everstar? The Wandering Everstar is also pretty good at higher refinements. If you have characters that can make use of the attack buff like Chlorend and stuff like that. Of course, everyone talks about the C2. C2 is one of the best constellations in the game. If you ask me what is Sino's best constellation, it's Nahida C2. Alhaitham's best constellation, also Nahida C2. And I think that's where, it's really nice to see that, she does have great constellations for players who want to hyper invest, but do not be forced to do it. She is still valid at C0. She's better at C0 than some of the 5 stars at C6. Okay, maybe not that exaggerated, but I think it is very, very nice for us to see that that's the plan that Scopely is going for. And so I think really it puts perspective just more about Dendro in particular. In here, I think this video is more about Dendro in particular as compared to Nahida in general, because I think that, like I said, this used to be the team that I rocked in 3.x, right? Cleared everything with ease. And now I still clear with ease. But in the past, I had problems with my second team. I had problems with using Ayaka. I had problems with using other characters. But nowadays, I have characters like Alekino. I now have characters like Chlorend. I now have characters like did I say Navia? I didn't say Navia, right? I have characters like Navia. Shit. Sorry. I have characters like Navia, right? That now helps bring more value to my team. I say Chlorend, Alekino, really, really helpful. And I think that that's really the state that we are in right now in the game. And I think it's all the more good for it, right? I think the state of the game is better because of that, right? And I think that a lot of things are going to change, right? Malvika is going to come out soon, and I think that we will probably see a very big shake-up with a release, just as how Furina shook up the meta a lot when she came out. And so I think that like I said, right, this is more like a before you pull kind of video, right? But it really puts into perspective. I really want to put into perspective, like, what's the landscape of the game and the landscape of Nahida, and more importantly, Dendro, right? As I mentioned, once again, Dendro is good, right? But don't pull for Nahida because she is strong. Pull for Nahida because you want to make your Dendro team stronger, right? Because if you're just pulling her for Nahida, but you don't plan to play Dendro, you don't have like a Dendro setup, then what's the point, right? And so I think really for you as a viewer, really hopefully you put this into perspective, right? If you really want a build guide, which is not really the point of this video, 1000 EM, put deep wood. Personally, I recommend at least 1 or 2 EMs, and then crit damage, especially on the circlet, because she has crit rate on her A4 passive. Okay, so yeah, anyways, that is that for this video. Really thank you all for watching it. Hopefully, as I said, I don't really want to make guides anymore, but I really want to just talk and yap about the character and their situations, because I think it's really, really important for us to actually put it into perspective instead of just looking at the individual character as a character, right? You need to look at the whole overall picture, and in particular, because Nahida is a Dendro Archon, we have to also look at the Dendro in as a whole as well. And so yeah, as I mentioned, thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys liked it. Thumbs up, share, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And if you'd like to catch me live, I do stream Genshin Impact sometimes and other Hoyoverse games as well. Link is down in the description below. Come check me out when I'm live. And so yeah, other than that, see you guys next time. Stay healthy, stay safe, be good to yourselves and the people around you. See you guys next time. Bye bye.